These are multiple choice questions for the A2 mock paper, so you might want to have a look at that first, have a go at them before you watch this in terms of explaining what the answers were. So question 1 was, what is the name used for the technique that enables qualitative data to be recorded in a quantitative way? This is kind of from an observation. So if you think about when you were observing somebody and it's a structured observation, you have what's called a coding frame. The coding frame tells you what you are coding for. So if every time you see a certain behaviour, do you write an F? Do you write a T? So it kind of tells you, you know, what you're observing qualitatively, how are you recording it quantitatively in terms of how it's framed. So the other ones don't make sense. We don't learn those other things, so coding frame is the correct answer. For the second question, there's a bit of a mistake on the paper. This here should be a square root sign. So that's just a little bit of a mistake. But it doesn't affect the question because the question says, what does n mean? What the number should be for n. Now, n is the number of participants. So in here we've got 12 sets of scores. So the correct answer is C. Number 3, it says one of the independent variables manipulated by Simon Chabris in the visual attention, and it's C, it's the type of video, whether it was transparent or opaque. The other ones, you know, are just not right. They're not an independent variable. So for example, number of players in each team is not an independent variable. They were all just 3 players. The gorilla appeared at, you know, one set of those times. And the viewing conditions, noise inside, well, that's not correct because that's from the Grant study. So the correct answer was C. Which of these best describes what the variance is? It's the measure of dispersion around the mean. Measure of central tendency is like mean, median, mode. A measure of dispersion around the mean is variance, standard deviation, or range. And then the other two are just made up things. They don't exist in psychology as things that you learn about on this spec, so you don't need to worry about those. So it's basically that measure of dispersion around the mean, how much the data varies away from the mean, so it's the variance, how much it varies. Number 5, which of these indicates the research is significant at 5% level of probability? Well, P is the probability of it being due to chance. So the probability that it's due to chance is less than 5%. It looks like 5p on a till, so therefore it's 5%. If you have this one here, you're saying that P is greater than 5%, so the probability of it being due to chance is more than 5%. So then it's not going to be significant because it needs to be less than 5%. So it's this one. You always read it from left to right, so the probability of it being less than 0.05 being due to chance. So it's B. Number 6, which would be best to use the median rather than the mean. So you use the median when there's an outlier. So which one of these means that there's an outlier? So when there are lots of low scores, well, there's no outlier there. When there's lots of high scores, there's no outlier there. When there are a few scores much higher than the rest, that would be the one that would be the answer to this question. So there are a few of them that are very different from the others, so there must be some outliers there, so you'd use the median. What is 7.864 written as 2 significant figures? Well, 2 significant figures means the first 2 figures, so 7.8, but then this 6 here means you've got to round this 8 up to 9, so C is the correct answer. Number 8, what 2 variables showed a negative correlation in the data analysis from Levine et al. On cross-cultural altruism? Well, the only one that was really found to be completely significant was the overall helping and the economic wealth, so the purchasing power parity, the PPP. So the correct answer was C. Number 9, 2 different versions of a personality test are given to participants and then the results compared. What type of validity is being checked here? This is concurrent, because concurrent validity is about, if you think about Baron Cohen, they already had a validated test of Hap Strange Stories and they looked at the eyes test with it. So if the eyes task got a score that was similar to Hap Strange Stories, and we know Hap Strange Stories measures theory of mind, then the eyes task must also measure theory of mind. Face validity is, does it look like what it's measuring? So it's not that one. You know, 2 test doesn't check for face validity. Ecological is how real to life it is, so it's not checking for that. And criterion is predictive validity. Can you predict an outcome of one test based on the other one? And that's not what's being done here because they're being done at the same time. So it's concurrent here. Number 10, which best describes a type 1 error? It's the null hypothesis is incorrectly rejected. So you're basically saying that there's nothing there when there is something there. So for example in Rosenham, when they said that Wait, did I say that right then? You're saying that there's something there when there isn't something there. So in Rosenhan, you said that the pseudo patients had a mental health issue when they didn't. So that's a type 1 error. Type 2 is when the null hypothesis is incorrectly accepted. So you're saying that there's nothing there when there actually is. So that was the second experiment, well, second part of the Rosenhan study, it's not in that experiment, where they didn't send any pseudo patients when they said they were going to, and the staff said that they were pseudo patients when they weren't. So they were saying that they didn't have a mental health issue when they actually did. So that would be the type 2, so that's that top one. So type 1 is this one. B, null hypothesis incorrectly rejected. Number 11 is about a ratio question. So it says, the newspaper includes 12 pages of sport and 8 pages of TV. What is the ratio of sport to TV? So sport goes on the left, 12 goes on the left, TV goes on the right, 8 on the right. So this here is the ratio that you get, but it says simplest form. So if you half both sides, you get 6 to 3. And if you half that again, you get 3 to 2. So B is the correct answer. Number 12, which of the things below is not something that could be used in support of the debate about whether psychology is a science? So in order for psychology to be a science, it's got to be objective, it's got to be, so there's no interpretation, there's got to be falsifiable, you've got to be able to prove it true or false, so to test it, and then it's got to be replicable, to be the same every time. So the only one that is not that is subjectivity, so D is a thing that doesn't support psychology being a science. If something's subjective, it's not very scientific. Freud, very subjective, very unscientific. 13, what is 2,830 written in standard form? So if we imagine there's a decimal here, it's 1, 2, 3. So it's 2.83 times 10 to the power of 1, 2, 3. So it's B, that's the correct answer. Andorra et al. Recorded children's behaviour every 5 seconds for a period of 20 minutes in their study of aggression. What type of sampling is this? So you're recording a time interval of 5 seconds, so it's time sampling. Event sampling would be where you record the behaviour every time it happens. So that's not what's being done in Bandura. Structured and participant are both types of observation, they're not types of sampling in terms of observation sampling. Question 15, what sampling technique, meaning the population, sampling of the population, was used to obtain participants in the study of whistleblowers by Bocciara? So it was a self-selected sample because the students at the Amsterdam University volunteered to take part. Number 16, which of these is nominal data? Now, reaction time is interval because it's got intervals in it. The interval between 1 second and 2 seconds is the same as 2 seconds and 3 seconds. Self ratings 1 to 10 gets you a score, as does this one. So these are kind of more ratio data. And then good, average, and poor categories. So you'll get like 5 people in good, 6 people in average, 20 people in poor. So that'll be nominal data because it's frequency data. You've got categories. If you were to ask the participant, are you good, average, or poor? They would say good, average, or poor. That would be their answer. It's in words, therefore it's nominal data. Number 17, which of these is not a measure of dispersion? So as I was saying before, range, standard deviation, and variance are all measures of dispersion. They all tell you how far away they are from the mean, so the scores are away from the mean. Whereas the mean is a measure of central tendency, like mean, median, and mode. So measure of dispersion is range, standard deviation, and variance. So the correct answer for this one is mean, because that's not a measure of dispersion. 18, so this question here is asking what percentage of people reported fruit as their favourite flavour. I don't know why I said that. So basically, we look at fruit, there's 8 of them. Over the total, so there's 50 people, so it's 8 over 50, so write it as a fraction. And then if you were to do kind of like the total percent that it could possibly be, it would be 100. So if it's 8 over 50, then it's good. If you double both the top and the bottom, it's going to be 16 over 100. So 16 over 100 means that it's 16%. So the correct answer is 16%. If you'd have put it in your calculator, 8 divided by 50, you'd have got it as well. So you can use a calculator, that's fine, but you can do it in your head, it's not that difficult. If you're stuck on that, I suggest watching a video on YouTube about how to calculate percentages, because they're really easy to do once you know how to do them. The follow-on question says what kind of data is it? Now, as we mentioned before, they're in categories. If you ask the person what is your favourite type of food, they will say to you meat, they will say fish, they will say fruit, cereals or vegetables. They are words. They're responding in words, and they've counted how many times that people have said those things. So it's frequency data in categories. So it's nominal data. And then 19, which of the following best describes what the term representative refers to? Well, it's the first one. The extent to which findings are able to be applied to the population. Does the sample represent the population? If it does, then you can generalise the findings to the population as well. The answer there says the extent to which the findings predict future outcomes. That's more like criterion validity, as we mentioned before. The extent to which findings are reliable is just external reliability. Or maybe internal as well. And then that doesn't make any sense in psychology, the extent to which findings are able to be published. I mean, maybe peer review a little bit, but it's not really linked that much. So hopefully that will help you understand what the answers to those questions are.